Imagine waking up in a world with no bathrooms, no showers, and no running water. There are no taps to turn, no hot water systems, and no modern plumbing hidden behind the walls. Everything that requires water must be done by hand. Every bucket must be carried, every drop heated over a fire. Yet people still needed to stay clean. They still washed their bodies, cared about hygiene, and created systems for bathing long before modern bathrooms existed. Life in medieval Europe was physically demanding. Most people worked with their hands every day. Farmers spent long hours in muddy fields planting crops and tending animals. Blacksmiths worked beside roaring furnaces, shaping glowing iron into tools and weapons. Craftsmen labored in dusty workshops filled with wood shavings, leather scraps, and metal dust. Dirt, sweat, and smoke were constant parts of everyday life. Because of this, cleanliness was not simply about comfort. It was also about health and social life. Many people today believe that medieval Europeans rarely bathed, but this idea is not completely accurate. In fact, bathing was more common than many people think, especially during the earlier medieval centuries. People understood that washing their bodies made them feel better and helped remove dirt and sweat after long days of work. However, bathing without modern technology required time, effort, and careful preparation. In small villages and rural areas, most homes did not have a special room dedicated to bathing. Instead, people used large wooden tubs placed in the main living space of the house. These tubs were often made from wooden staves held together by metal hoops, similar to large barrels. Preparing a bath began with collecting water. Wells, rivers, lakes, and streams were the main sources of water. Someone from the household had to walk to the water source carrying wooden buckets. The journey might only take a few minutes in some villages, but in other places, it required a longer walk. Once the buckets were filled, the heavy water had to be carried back home. Sometimes several trips were needed to gather enough water for a single bath. After the water was collected, it needed to be heated. Large pots made from metal or clay were placed over an open fire. Flames slowly heated the water while smoke rose into the air. This process could take a long time, especially during winter when cold air cooled the pots quickly. When the water was finally warm enough, it was carefully poured into the wooden tub. If the water was too hot, cold water was added to balance the temperature. Slowly the tub filled with warm water, creating a simple but effective bath. Because heating water required so much work, a full bath was not always taken every day. Instead, people often bathed once a week or on special occasions. In many households, the bathwater was shared. The head of the household, usually the father, bathed first. Afterward, the mother might use the same water. Then older children followed, and finally the younger children used the remaining water. By the end of the process, the water might not look very clean, but it was still considered better than not bathing at all. In towns and cities, another option existed that made bathing easier for many people. Public bathhouses were common throughout medieval Europe. These bathhouses were special buildings where people could come to wash, relax, and enjoy warm water without needing to prepare everything themselves. Inside a bathhouse, large furnaces heated massive quantities of water. Workers maintained the fires and ensured that hot water was always available. Wooden tubs, pools, and sometimes steam rooms allowed visitors to bathe comfortably. Bathhouses were not only places for washing the body. They were also social centers where people gathered to talk, relax, and spend time together. Friends met there to discuss business or daily news. Travelers sometimes visited bathhouses after long journeys to clean themselves and rest. The atmosphere inside a bathhouse could be lively and warm. Steam filled the air while the smell of hot water and wood smoke spread through the building. Candles and lanterns provided soft light, reflecting on the surface of the water. In some places, bathhouses offered additional services. People could receive massages, haircuts, or even simple medical treatments. Food and drinks were sometimes served. turning the bathhouse into a place where visitors spent several hours. Bathhouses were especially popular in large medieval cities. However, the popularity of bathhouses did not last forever. During the later medieval period, attitudes toward bathing began to change. One important reason was the fear of disease. As epidemics spread across Europe, many people began to believe that public bathhouses might contribute to illness. Another reason was the changing views of religious authorities. Some leaders believed that bathhouses encouraged immoral behavior or inappropriate social interaction. As a result, many bathhouses were eventually closed. By the late Middle Ages and early modern period, public bathing became less common in some regions. Even when full baths were not taken regularly, people still practiced other forms of hygiene. Washing the face and hands was very common. Small basins filled with water allowed people to clean themselves each morning. Cloths soaked in water were used to wipe the body and remove dirt. This simple method allowed people to stay reasonably clean without preparing a full bath. Herbs and plants were sometimes added to bathwater to improve the smell and create a refreshing experience. Lavender, rosemary, and other plants were believed to have cleansing or healing properties. Perfumed oils were also used by wealthier individuals to keep their bodies smelling pleasant. Clothing played an important role in hygiene as well. Clean linen garments were considered essential. People often believed that fresh clothing helped absorb sweat and keep the body clean. Changing linen garments regularly was seen as a sign of good hygiene, even when bathing was less frequent. In many ways, medieval cleanliness depended on a combination of bathing, washing, and maintaining clothing. Despite the lack of modern plumbing, people adapted their routines to the resources available to them. A simple bath required firewood, water, time, and effort. Yet the process also created moments of comfort. After a long day of hard work, sitting in warm water beside a glowing fireplace could feel incredibly relaxing. For families, preparing a bath was often a shared task. Someone collected water. Another person heated it. Children helped carry buckets or prepare the tub. These small routines were part of everyday medieval life. When we imagine the Middle Ages today, we often focus on kings, castles, and battles. But the real story of medieval life is found in these ordinary activities: cooking meals, lighting fires, carrying water, and preparing baths. These simple actions show how people adapted to a world without electricity or modern technology. Bathing was not as quick or easy as it is today, but it was still an important part of daily life. Through creativity and hard work, medieval communities developed practical ways to stay clean and comfortable. Wooden tubs, heated water, public bathhouses, and simple washing practices all helped people maintain hygiene in a challenging environment. Looking back, it is remarkable how much effort was required for something as simple as taking a bath. In our modern world, we rarely think about where our water comes from or how it becomes hot. With the turn of a tap, warm water flows instantly. But in medieval Europe, every bath represented hours of preparation. Water had to be carried. Firewood had to be gathered. Flames had to heat heavy pots until steam rose into the air. Only then could someone step into a warm bath. These routines remind us that life in the past demanded patience and resilience. Even without modern bathrooms, people found ways to care for their bodies and maintain a sense of cleanliness. Their methods may seem slow or difficult by modern standards, but they worked. And for centuries, these simple systems helped millions of people live, work, and survive in a world without plumbing, electricity, or modern comforts. Sometimes the most fascinating parts of history are not the great wars or famous kings, but the small everyday details that shaped ordinary life. And something as simple as taking a bath reveals just how resourceful medieval people truly were.